even though he doesn't know me, but I can relate to him and I can kind of connect up with him and use his coattails a little bit to say, oh, we were on the same show over here that's really high quality. You should totally check this out. A lot of the times I didn't email. I would go to, so my strategy was a little different. I would go to these online lists and they would say, here's the 20 people looking for guests. And then I would look at their requirements. And if I met their requirements, I would apply. And usually you would apply through the system. So there wasn't like a subject line you were pushing through. Another thing I would do is I would join Facebook groups that had to do with guesting on podcasts. Someone would post something. I would say, hey, I'd love to be on your show in the comment. Then I'd post a link to my press kit and they could check me out for themselves. But the press kit had everything they would need if I was to be on the show. The headshots, the logo link, the website link, the freebie link, my bio, how to say my name phonetically, like everything was there for them. A list of topics I would cover, questions they could ask me that they could download and print. Like it was all on the press kit. So I wasn't ever really emailing directly. The only time I emailed directly was when I found this guy. He was a marketer. He had been on probably like 80 podcasts and he was really good. And he was on really good podcasts. Like the host that he was on as a guest, they just were so good. They were so polished. And I was like, these are the kinds of shows I want to get on. And so I literally went on his website. I wrote down every single podcast he was on. I went to those individual websites for those individual podcasts. I either went to their apply link and applied through there, or I went to their contact form, which usually doesn't have a subject, and I would put my pitch in there and say, I'd love to be on your show. Here's a little about me. Here's a link to my press kit. Let me know. So I used a couple different strategies to actually find the shows and then apply.
Okay. So list of strategies. First, you were using the podcast broker kind of services, right? Like
the list, yeah.
A bunch of those popped up during the pandemic. So that was definitely an opportunity, a time and place, right? You used Facebook groups. And then you also said you found some dude that made awesome podcasts and you followed kind of like his wake. How did you, was that somebody that you followed already? Or how did you figure out that this person was really great on podcasts and that you would be great on the podcast that he was on?
So I was on a show that I really, really liked and that the host was amazing and his production was amazing. So I started listening to other shows that he had done. And I found someone who was on the show way prior to me, maybe a year ahead of me. And I really liked his presentation method and how he spoke and his stories. And so then I started following his like press side of his website. And when I saw all the other shows he had been on, knowing that we had been on the same, series, we'd been in the same show before, knowing that I could reach that caliber because we were kind of peers at that point, I could say to the people when I was pitching, I would sometimes add something like, I saw that you had so-and-so on your show. We were both on such and such show. Here's a link, to kind of give that credibility that, hey, you already know this guy, even though he doesn't know me, but I can relate to him and I can kind of connect up with him and use his coattails a little bit to say, oh, we were on the same show over here that's really high quality. You should totally check this out.
That is a brilliant strategy. We're going to call this the podcast tour wake strategy, right? Like this is so freaking smart. You mentioned a couple of things, right? If you find somebody that has been on the shows that you want to be on, how can you level up till you get to maybe the lowest rung on the ladder of shows that that person has been on, and then parlay that up the chain? That's very similar to what people do in the blogosphere of like, if I can get published on some stupid blog and then I can send it to some stupid business journal, that I can then send it to some stupid magazine that I can then send to the Wall Street Journal, right? Like there is precedence for this in the marketing world. I've never heard anybody utilize that in this strategy. And I think that's absolutely freaking brilliant.